Good afternoon. I'm Jim Love, author, podcaster, musician, and CIO with IT World Canada, ITWC. Welcome to the opening day of the 2022 Digital Transformation Conference. Now, as you're aware, this is one of ITWC's flagship annual offerings. And over the next 2 days, you'll hear from some of the top names in the Canadian industry ready to share their thoughts and best practices about how to unleash the potential of your staff and your technology. More important than simply hearing from them, though, today's session offers you the opportunity to ask questions directly to some of our leading presenters. This is the first hybrid event we are holding, by the way. And in response to the guidance we received from you, the audience, the conference is going to be held over 2 days. You see, we listened to you. Now, as part of this hybrid event, we have a live section tomorrow for the presentation of the CIO of the Year Awards. Today's session remains virtual, delightfully so. Today we're going to have panels, case studies, and presentations focused on showing you how others have leveraged technology to reshape their organizations from staffing through diversity. And we've mixed these together nicely with the presentation of the awards and the awards to these organizations that have demonstrated digital transformation excellence. There are a lot of lessons to take away. We're also going to have a bit of fun with quizzes, cool conversations in the chat box, some videos exploring situations where individuals and organizations took digital transformation a little too far. Hope you find them funny. And tomorrow, we'll focus on the future with presentations on topics ranging from AI and cryptocurrency and the metaverse and topics like that. So, as I said, we'll cap it off with a live presentation, and that live presentation, the 2022 CIO of the Year Awards from the Verity Club in downtown Toronto. Now, do you remember when people had a huge collection of name tags on lanyards hanging in their office bulletin boards? I did as well. Didn't that seem like a long time ago? Many of my colleagues are still trying to nurse the plants in their offices back to health after 2 years of neglect. They're dead. Can't be done. Anyway, just a couple more words from me other than that advice, and we'll ensure you get the greatest value from today's conference experience. So, while most of the action takes place on the screen where I am now, there is a lot to see on the DXTV platform as well. Scroll down, and there are downloadable reports, recordings, and opportunities to sign up for related events. Now, to my left, or just below me on some devices, you'll see a live chat box. Do you see it there? Okay, you can chat with other attendees here. Now, be sure to enter your name, and you have to check the terms and conditions box to participate. But aside from that, just check it out. And why not put in your name right now? Actually, put in your name right now and tell us, you want to tell us your favorite movie or music, it'd be great, music involving technology. So one of the two of those. If we get enough suggestions, we'll put together a playlist from this event and circulate it back to you as a part of a thank you package. Ready? Okay, so get that stuff in there. Now, if you hear something's interesting and you want to go beyond and share it with a wider audience, what I'd encourage you to do is to go to Twitter and use the hashtag DXAwards. That's hashtag DXAwards. Now, none of what happens today would be possible without the support of our sponsors. That includes Cloudflare, Dynatrace, TalkDesk, Okta, and Auth0. We also have supporters this year, including Gartner and the CIO Association of Canada. So thanks to all of them. Now, that's the housekeeping. With that out of the way, let's kick things off with our opening panel, Emerging Best Practices in Digital Transformation, moderated by my friend and former CIO of Toronto, Rob Meikle. Take it away, Rob.
Thanks, Jim. This year we had some amazing submissions in our Digital Transformation Awards. Today, we're going to continue that conversation with three amazing submissions, actually. And they're going to share their stories with us, not only what they did, but the journey along the way and some of the key outcomes of that. So I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. And we're going to have Patrick kick it off for us. I'm going to ask you first, Patrick. Tell us a little bit about your submission, your project, your digital transformation, what it is, what you did, and why.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rob. So our digital transformation is a bit different than the other, I would say, participants in the sense that we didn't do a digital transformation internally. What we did is a digital transformation for an industry as a whole. So Mavennet is a venture studio. We focus on identifying opportunities of transformation in different industries. And this is the first one that we've done in the more traditional industry that is oil and gas. So essentially, our focus was or started when we realized that even though organizations have spent a lot of money, invested millions of dollars internally to transform their organizations individually, that payback wasn't actually taking place to the point that when an organization is sharing information with their suppliers, with their clients, with their vendors, they tend to send an email or send a PDF or close to paper nature, as opposed to harnessing that digital opportunity that they're trying to develop internally. And so we got to the situation where with one of our clients that had done a full end-to-end ERP transformation, where the system of record to track their barrels of oil was still Excel, right? And that thing is happening. And we realized that the reason why that's the case is because the product that they're selling is a product that traverses a whole value chain. And they just digitalize a very small piece of that value chain. So what we did, it's a product called NeoFlow, is we essentially created a lingua franca to allow organizations to use the same digital chart, the same digital representation of the products to communicate. And our first use case for this platform, we're building it together with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, essentially to track barrels of oil and gas from Canada that enter the U.S. As if you will, creating a digital passport for these commodities. So we like to see it as nexus for oil, right? So you do essentially you get the pre-approvals, and all information is shared with customs digitally.
Alrighty, thank you, Patrick. I'm really looking forward to unpacking that further, especially from that industry perspective. So looking forward to our discussion today. And before we go further on your story, equally excited to have Katie with us today. And Katie, tell us a little bit about your transformation, your project, and what you did and why, and even a little bit of the insights. We'd love to hear from you now.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Rob. And Patrick, you said yours wasn't a traditional digital transformation, and I can tell you ours wasn't either. So the Toronto Zoo is a world-class zoo, one of Canada's biggest zoos. And right before the pandemic hit, we actually had just gone through a new strategic planning process that set us on a path that we were all really excited about. It was literally, a couple months before the pandemic hit, and our strategic mission was established to be connecting people, animals, and conservation science to fight extinction. It was clear, it was strong, everybody was really behind it. And then the pandemic hit. So connecting the people to our animals became very difficult when the zoo was closed. And we were traditionally a very brick and mortar. People came to our zoo. We had communications, we had social media, we had a website, but really we relied very heavily on how we connected with people when they came to our zoo and had the experiences here. So it really turned us on our heads, and we had to do, some very quick adaptations, innovating, thinking of, if the people can't come to us, how can we come to the people? How can we bring the experiences, the learning, the conservation, the science, the fun to the people? And so we started out on a journey that has been the last couple years. The zoo has incidentally been closed for over 300 days in the past couple years during this whole pandemic. So it's been a lot of time spent where we've really leveraged a lot of these opportunities we've built upon, including, our virtual programming. We started enhancing a lot of our social media content and really extending the different platforms. We had a new live cam program, a lot of collaborations with people, lots of learning as we went, and just it's been a remarkable journey. And I think that, the greatest benefit really has been that we probably won't look back. Now our doors are open. We're back. We are inviting guests to come and visit us in person, and we couldn't be happier about that. But now we also have all these other opportunities to connect with audiences that we never had. So it's been an amazing journey and opportunity. A lot of learnings along the way that I'm sure we'll get into, but overall, it's definitely been a digital transformation for our zoo. Absolutely.
Amazing. How exciting. I'm looking forward to diving deeper on that too. And I'm loving the stories already. So we'll come back again to that in a moment. We just want to hear from everybody. And next up is Robbie. Robbie, tell us a little bit about what you did and what your team did.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Rob. So our focus for the last couple of years has really been around a digital transformation that touches on operational efficiencies and rebuilding our core platforms to build the organization back up. Our legacy systems when we started this implementation were really out of date. They didn't have a lot of capabilities built in. We couldn't provide the retail services that our customers expected out of our core platform. So our legacy system had been stretched really thin. It was actually a system that was made for 30 to 50 stores, and it just couldn't scale. Our company operates over 250 stores across Canada, and it was just not an efficient system. We had issues with data synchronization, which led to poor decision making from our merchant teams, a lot of manual processes. It just wasn't meant for the scale that we were operating at. And it was, I hate to use the term, but it was held together by bubblegum and tape, right? I call it the MacGyver of the retail environment. It worked, but it wasn't efficient. So we had a lot of disparate systems in our environment as well, right? Integrations that were just manually done or held together by some basic systems. For years, we spent maintaining the system and trying to build up on it, but something better was needed, right? To move the organization forward and really just have a proper footing to build up on. So that's what we tackled through our digital transformation.
Wow. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you for sharing, Patrick and Katie, all three of you. You know what's interesting? It's obviously three distinct stories. I would love to assume that it was smooth sailing all the way. Everything went perfect and according to plan. But I know one thing that on these individual journeys that there's a common denominator that you must have faced some challenges. And that's one of the reasons why we do these digital transformation awards, to share the outcomes, but also share some of the learnings, some of the insights, a little bit more on the journey. So take us a little bit further. And I'd love anyone to feel to jump in as we're dialoguing about this. But I'd like to hear, what do you think was perhaps on this journey towards transformation, operational efficiencies, connecting people, industry impact? What was perhaps maybe your number one challenge that you went through and that you had to overcome? But maybe Katie, do you want to kick that off?
Probably one of our most obvious challenges was the technology. We were already trailing quite far behind as a very old site that needed a lot of infrastructure. I think sometimes, especially when you're navigating new territory and things you haven't done, that can be a bit of a challenge for the users. We had a lot of, volunteers and people who we were now tapping into to help us with some of this content delivery who really weren't very comfortable using, some of the, Zoom programming and different online platforms. So just getting people up to speed and getting comfortable with that took quite a bit of time. but definitely was something we navigated and got through. And you could have easily probably let just something as simple as that and as obvious as that stop you, but there's ways around. You find ways around everything.
Patrick or Robbie, either one of you want to share perhaps what your challenge you had and how you overcame it?
I would say in our case, the biggest challenge for Neoflow has been what we call the cold start problem with the network. So for us, we're essentially connectors of different organizations. So if you have a phone system and you only have one telephone and no one on the other side, then that phone system has no value. But as you're growing and getting traction with different organizations, the value starts growing exponentially. So trying to solve and to jumpstart the network has been critical for us, and so I can see in organizations internally how this might be similar to when you rolled out something like Slack, and at the beginning no one is using it and no one wants to use it because no one on the other side is using it, and so you need to find a way to jumpstart. And the way we looked at it was to think, well, what's the use case that we can start with as the atomic network from which we grow from, and that has been in our case this border clearance use case, and we got to the point where it was very, very hard, and we hardly moved the needle for a long time, and then in a matter of I would say weeks, we got to critical mass and the whole thing changed, and it was the opposite, right? So the adoption started happening overnight, right? As they say, right? It took us very long to become an overnight success in that respect.
Alrighty, thank you, Patrick. So, jumpstart to keep things rolling to overcome that challenge. So, thank you so much for sharing that. Robbie, let's hear from you. What kind of challenge did you face, and how did you overcome it?
Retail is a very interesting environment when you think about it, right? Regardless of which vertical you work in. We work in the liquor and cannabis verticals, so obviously we're heavily regulated, so that's a challenge in itself. But retail is an ever-changing industry, right? It's constantly being disrupted, or you're constantly trying to innovate. And we needed a platform that actually worked with us. And anyone who knows anything about ERP transformations, ERPs are sometimes a little rigid in the way they're implemented, and it's not the most flexible system. So we had to pick a solution that was open and flexible and worked to match the way our business worked, which was pivoting constantly and changing. So our biggest challenge was honestly, we couldn't do a big bang approach. We just could not rip and replace everything at once. We had to keep the business moving at the same time that we were building up this new platform and rolling it out to stores.
Alrighty, thank you, Robbie. Katie, I'm really intrigued in the sense of really your initiative really was connecting people. Tell us a little bit about how did that affect the culture? Like going through all this change, but all of this involves people, no matter how you slice and dice it. Tell us a little bit about the people impact.
Now we've got a whole digital world and audience that we grew. We had across all our social media platforms heading into the pandemic, we had about 330,000 followers. And in a short, less than 2 years, we've grown that to it's over 900,000 now. And then we also have our community, which we had a commitment to serve as well as part of our new strategic plan, and who have been amazing throughout this. So there's so many different people that we wanted to, take along this ride with us and find ways to serve. But I would say from an internal culture, because the staff who were obviously and volunteers who were delivering a lot of this programming and working on all of these new digital experiences and coming up with these new ideas and innovating, there's sort of two pieces to that culture. The one is the people who have to adopt it and figure it out and move with it. And I can't say enough about our internal teams, my strategic communications team, my director. But it's, so they adopted it, loved it, ran with it, and it's empowering people. But the culture that I think also really drives this for us is the leadership culture of, from the get-go. We have a CEO who's been with us just over 3 years, and he has, really flipped our culture on its head to say, you're allowed it to try anything. And so many times things just ended up leading to these crazy places that we had no idea. And you just get there by trying it, really, most of the time. Some things didn't catch on as well. And then the biggest risk you have is the capacity and the resources you've put behind it. And if you, are willing to kind of give that up sometimes along the way, but you've got to have leadership and support behind you that not just allows it, but encourages it. And that's really what drives a lot of these things. And then the teams that, do crazy things and suggest crazy things, and you say, go for it, because that's what made us really successful, I think.
Oh, well said, Katie. Patrick and Robbie, anything that Katie said that you can relate to?
So I think a lot of what Katie mentioned from an experimental standpoint and for the leadership and the backing to say, let's go try some new things, is probably the biggest cultural mindset, that change that we actually had in our environment as well. We're in an industry on one side of our business where we run brick and mortar liquor stores. Liquor has not changed in years. The concept is the same. The way they market is the same. It's never changing. And on the other side of our business, running cannabis, which is a net new industry that just started in the last couple of years since legalization in 2018, the entire industry is constantly on its head. Like every day there's disruption, new technologies, new companies coming to the forefront with new ideas on how to implement something. So we have these two diverging mindsets in our company today. And I think the biggest thing that we really came away from our transformation is how we changed the culture here. One of our biggest areas where I'll really point to is the concept of MVP. I will rant about minimum viable product. Like I will rant about this over and over again to make sure that everyone understands that you don't need to get it perfect the first time. You want to get something out the door and try it. That is the only way that people will really understand the impact of something. So if you can get a project or a piece of code or some functionality out the door and people can touch, feel it, well, won't really say feel programs, but they can visualize it, right? And then they can really give the feedback and see if it works for them or not.
Awesome. So there's a common denominator with Katie in terms of a cultural transformation. Patrick, I know you got something to say, so jump right on, and we'd love to hear from you on this topic.
So for us, culture, it's not important, is the number one priority at the end of the day, because we're doing things that no one has done before. And so our way of seeing the way people interact, so we're very mission specific, but we are letting people expand into all directions as part of that mission that we're trying to accomplish. And what I mean by that is that I always tell my team that in most companies, your role defines what you do. For us, it's almost the opposite. What you do defines what your role is, because we can't set up a specific structure to tackle a problem in which we don't know the solution. So it needs to be fluid. It needs to be dynamic. So for us, no one has a silver bullet. I don't have a silver bullet. No one in the team individually has a silver bullet. But us collectively, we're able to crack the case in most cases, right? And so I'm going to leave it at that. So for us, the culture is not part of the company. Culture is the company.
Exciting indeed, and some amazing stories. Thank you, all of you, Robbie, Patrick, and Katie, for sharing these stories. Very insightful, very inspirational. And so with that, our time is up. I want to say thank you again for sharing. And at this time, I'm going to pass it back to Jim in studio.
Vacuum cleaner shoes. Are you in dire need of an accessory to combine with that rocket jet pack that you have on back order from Amazon? If so, why not a pair of vacuum cleaner shoes? Made by Japanese auto manufacturer Denso, these are just normal everyday shoes. Well, normal if you're a circus clown with chronic arch issues. Gone are the days of wasting time dragging that old motorized hose monster out of the closet just to tidy up a little wayward dog hair. Now you can just do a little Fred Astaire-inspired soft shoe shuffle across the living room floor, and presto, the room is cleaned out better than your bank account after buying this odd little doohickey. This is certainly a one-of-a-kind item, mainly because it's unbelievable that they actually made more than one of these. These shoes are the cutting edge or thought it was a great idea at the time. Stand in awe, my friends. This is footwear that truly sucks.
Well, I can't figure out why that one didn't work. Back to seriousness here. Since 2017, when we first presented our first Digital Transformation Awards, we have honored organizations big and small across almost every industry vertical. We've seen initiatives that have disrupted the financial sector, changed the retail landscape, and positively impacted all manner of service delivery. This afternoon, we're going to acknowledge another 4 organizations that are taking their business models and using technology. They are reshaping the way business gets done in their sectors. And we're ready to present the first of 5 2022 Digital Transformation Awards. Specifically this one in the small public not-for-profit category. Now, the finalists in the category are Halton Region, the Health Insurance Reciprocal of Canada, HIROC, Sudbury Catholic District School Board, and, drumroll, the winner is Health Insurance Reciprocal of Canada, HIROC. Great stuff. Here's a few words about our winner.
What does digital transformation involve? For HIROC, the Healthcare Insurance Reciprocal of Canada, it has involved a focus on business intelligence in support of better outcomes when it comes to patient safety. It has also meant a huge focus on more adeptly leveraging the power of advanced data.
HIROC has also undertaken a major transformation of its enterprise data warehouse, and as such has adopted new tools for business intelligence, which have helped lead to major advances in reporting and analysis, as well as putting the power of HIROC's data at our staff's fingertips. So this allows us to explore opportunities to apply advanced analytical tools such as machine learning to help solve complex and dynamic business problems and unlock even more value from our data assets in service of our staff and ultimately our subscribers.
A big part of HIROC's transformation has involved moving away from paper in its insurance renewal process.
This used to be very much paper-based, with reams of documents mailed out to our customers in big envelopes. With teams working remotely, we saw an opportunity to do something that had been on our minds for a long time, which is to take that process and make it paperless. It's been a big step forward in efficiency and customer experience, and we're definitely not going back to paper. It's 100% digital now.
Security and cloud have also been key pieces in HIROC's remarkable transformation.
We've now evolved our privacy and security controls, and that's opened the door to safely adopt cloud solutions. Just over the last 2 years, we've gone from having basically 100% of our technology on premise to adopting 10 cloud solutions, everything from software as a service to infrastructure and everything in between. And we feel that this is really just the start. Technology is an enabler, and we're super excited about the customer experience impacts that are enabled by this digital progress that we've made.
HIROC knows transformation is a journey, and as such, has no intentions of just standing around admiring its past successes.
At HIROC, we put people at the center of everything we do and are driven by the pursuit of excellence in ways that make sense to our customers. To this end, we continue forward exploring and implementing solutions that will help us provide even greater customer services in support of over 700 subscriber organizations. and to continue to ensure that we understand and respond to the insurance and risk management needs of our customers at the deepest level. As an organization, we have adopted agile organization methodologies as well as tools for human-centered design, which allow us to continue to embed new beliefs and behaviors that drive innovations. Looking to the future, our plans include continue to apply these ideas to help further refine and advance our digital and data analytics capabilities, to leverage the power of our information for improvement, and ultimately to help turn the corner on patient safety.
Congratulations to Hairbrush for winning this year's DX Award in the Small Public Sector category.
On behalf of Hairbrush and the Performance Excellence and Information Services team, we'd like to thank IT World Canada for acknowledging us with this award, as well as thanking our relentless team for all of the efforts that they bring to Hairbrush each and every day to support not just our organization, but our subscribers.
Thank you very much on behalf of Hairbrush and on behalf of the Performance Excellence and Information Services team. We're honored to accept this award. We're honored to be recognized for the progress that we've made in digital transformation, and we're thrilled of what's to come and what that means for us in customer experience. So thank you.
Congrats, Hairbrush. Case studies are recognized as the most consulted research tool sought by leaders who are trying to research the value of making a change. ITWC helps companies create and distribute dozens of case studies annually with incredible results. So we thought it was appropriate to add a visual case study into today's program. Here to share insights into the challenges and opportunities CI Financial has encountered on its digital transformation is Kambiz Vatan Abadi, the company's Chief Innovation Officer. Here's Kambiz.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here today and have the opportunity to share insights regarding CI Financial's digital transformation program and some of the lessons we learned in our journey in the last 3 years. It is hard to explain and fit all aspects of this program in 20 minutes. And I think I will probably leave you with some unanswered questions. So feel free to reach out to me if you are interested to know more or if you have any questions in your mind left unanswered. For the benefit of those who may not be familiar with us, I thought to start with a brief introduction to our company. Founded and born in Canada in 1965, CI Financial is one of the largest diversified global asset and wealth management companies operating in Canada, the US, and Australia. We went through a significant transformation program at the strategy, technology, and HR level in the last 3 years. And as a result, our asset under management grew significantly in this period to over $384 billion as per Q4 2021 financial reportings. With over 2,500 employees, the group operates in Canada using the 6 brands listed on this slide. We also have 23 US registered investment advisors, or call them RIAs, located in different cities across the US. Our Canadian headquarters is in downtown Toronto, and our US headquarters is located in Miami. So while I am the lucky person chosen to present our story today, our achievement wouldn't be possible without the extraordinary support and contribution of our executive and leadership team, the entire CI members, specifically at operations, IT, client experience, HR, automation, and EPMO departments, who genuinely worked hard in the last 3 years to transform our operating model. They are our true champions, and I mean it. Our execution partners who work very closely with us in different stages of this program, we owe them a lot. Specifically, McKinsey and company team, who were our partners during our gap analysis phase. The Deloitte team, who were our automation and capability building partner. And also the BCG consulting team, who were our execution partner in our AI and machine learning build. So let's start with going over an overview of our digital transformation program with a few facts and metrics, and then jump into the lessons learned. So looking at this chart, you will see that over the course of last 3 years, our manual operation evolved into a cluster of modern, intelligent document processing center, or IDP, with human in loop, where the art of process streamlining and the power of robotic process automations, RPA, and intelligent character recognitions, or ICR technologies meet, allowing us to digitize any type of incoming analog data. Could be in the form of physical mails, emails, PDFs, or image, automatically with an extremely high degree of accuracy, make them ready for the RPA bots to process. Our bots can process and execute their assigned task 24/7. They are smart enough to decide if any specific case needs to be sent for human supervision. Once a case is sent to human supervision, bots look at the humans while they are processing that specific case, observe how the case is being resolved, and learn from each case resolution. So next time when a similar case comes in queue, they will know how to deal with it. So they get smarter and smarter as they work. The chart on your left shows how our fully automated processing volumes ramped up in the last 1.5 years, and how accurate and precise IDP cells are working now. Currently, we are processing about 100,000 pages per month automatically using the RPA and the ICR technology, and with an 80% accuracy, which is really amazing and mind-boggling, I would say. So our IDP cells are capable of digitizing even handwritten data easily. As you see in this sample case shown on the left, the ICR platform actually processed a manually complete account opening form, grabbed all the data. Here we will see that JSON has been grabbed by the machine and transformed to the JSON, as a data. I tried to also show you some KPIs and metrics we are getting from AI and machine learning use cases. The pie charts present the recent metrics of one of the AI use cases we built for our sales department to predict the likelihood of a specific sales-related event to happen in the next 3 months based on analyzing large sets of data. As you see, the machine predicts that these future events with 95% accuracy, 97% precision, and 96% F1 score, which is really, a high degree of, certainty. Okay, let's jump into the lessons section. Lesson 1, you need to know where you are standing and what your gaps are first. So start your journey with a comprehensive gap analysis. Be honest and ready to get a low mark. And it is totally fine to get a low mark, and very typical. Do not get disappointed, obviously. Try to involve a professional and impartial third party in your diagnosis phase. Someone who cannot be intimidated by your top management, or be worried about their job, or worried about the extent and size of the gaps. So allocate a reasonable time. So I would say maybe 3 to 6 months, depending on the size of your company, to do this. Do not rush. This is a very important phase. This is exactly like the medical exam you needed to do before the surgery. X-ray your organization from tip to toe by walking through main processes across your operations, IT departments, IT processes, HR, client service, finance, and the rest of the core of your business. Be ready to go over a very painful process. Interview all levels of your organizations, including executives, managers, supervisors, SMEs, and the rest of the employees. You can use the anonymous third-party surveys and capture the status quo. Deep dive into the cost and SG&A and identify the cost-saving opportunities, and also any immediately addressable areas that you can actually reduce the cost and improve the efficiency by using the automations, or using an adoption of emerging technologies and emerging business practices. Analyze your organizational chart in the areas and using some AI-based organizational chart analyzers to identify departments and functions that you can actually reduce the level of span of the controls and make it more lean. and get some more efficiency out of it. And this is exactly what we've done. So lesson 2, top management should be fully involved and clearly demonstrate and communicate their support within the organizations. If you do not have this support, do not start. I repeat, do not start. Always remember, without your CEO, president, CFO, and COO support, your CIO title stands for career is over, and not Chief Information Officer or Chief Innovation Officer. So lesson 3, you need to define and own a digital transformation definition which is applicable to your own company. You cannot just cut and paste boilerplate definition. First, you have to educate yourself through reading books and articles, benchmarking success and failure cases, looking at your gaps, analysis, outcomes, and your culture, and then coin your own term. If you read 100 digital transformation books and talk to 100 consultants, you will probably get over 200 different definitions and approaches. This is how we land and define our digital transformation in our own language. So let's go to the next lesson. You need to understand why over 80% of DX programs fails. If you know the root causes in advance, you can be prepared and put some preventive measures around it. So McKinsey actually published a very valuable summary summarizing 4 main categories of root causes for transformations programs failures. What we might think actually of usual suspects, like we have inadequate resources, poor planning, bad ideas, or unpredictable external events, turn out to account for less than a third of failure reasons. In fact, basically more than 70% of failures are driven by what we categorize as a poor organizational health, either employee resistance to change or lack of top management support. Lesson 5, take change management seriously because it is serious. There is not a shortage of things we can do when it comes to change management, and the list is long. However, it is worth it to mention some of the key items here. So the very first thing we need to do is, with vigor and actually with discipline, is to establish and engage with the workforce in high compact two-way communications. Study shows the change programs that make the organizations feel engaged and energized through the communications and involvement are actually having 4 times more likely to succeed than programs that don't do these things. So there are many ways and methods that we can use. There is a famous quotes and sayings in change management, which says actually, it is difficult to get man to understand something if his salary depends upon not understanding it. And I think it is damn right. This is actually really bullseye. So if the employees, compensations are not tied to success of this program, so you will have a very low likelihood of being successful in change management. So to expand a bit more on this, let's look at the 4 levels of influence models. Basically, from everyone's point of view or as an employee, he or she will say, I will change my mind and behavior if I understand what is being asked of me and makes sense. So basically, this actually emphasizes the element of understanding and convictions. And if I see that our structure, processes, systems, incentive supports the change. And this basically emphasizing the reinforcements and mechanisms. And if I have the skills and opportunities to behave in a new way, and this is actually the element of confidence and skill building. And lastly, if I see my leaders, managers, and supervisors doing the same. So this is basically role modeling. So if you don't do understanding and convictions, if you don't reinforce mechanisms, you don't have a reinforcement mechanism, and if you don't provide confidence and skill building and role modeling, so basically most probably the change management is going to fail. There's one more thing on change management subject, which I couldn't actually convince myself not to mention, as it is not obvious. And that is, you need to mobilize influence leaders. So senior leaders aren't the only ones that employees listen to or take the lead from. There are usually influence leaders, deep in the organizations that if they are excited about and on board with the change program, can have a disproportionate effect on the energy levels of everyone else. So influence leaders are people who, regardless of their official title or status, have a wide circle of personal contacts. If you draw the social network of this specific company, you will see other individuals are having actually a much stronger social network. Once you identify these influencers, there are many ways to get them mobilized. You can get them as an early adopter of your programs, or you can involve them on the pilot projects. It is also ideal to bounce any new ideas to enhance implementation efforts of these with these groups to ensure they will be as powerful as possible and support and broadly support the change within the organizations, because these are the main influence of your firm. Lesson 7, it is extremely important to build an effective governance and monitoring structure around your transformation program. You need to make sure top-level executives are directly involved, stay in the loop, and constantly getting updated reports about status of the program. Transformation should become one of the key strategic priorities year after year, not just the first year. This requires having an energetic transformation champion, formal governance and reporting structures, and owning the implementation responsibility by the field managers. Field managers shall own their transportation lab and get all the credit for their lab's achievements. You as a CIO should not actually make it personal. You have to make it personal for them. Remember, as your company's DX champions, your responsibility is basically finding local champions and let them shine and let them basically run the business and run these labs. Lesson 8 is basically never jump into full execution without having a successful pilot. Outcome of a pilot can lead to either an organizational momentum or organizational apathy. For your pilot, try to pick something which is known, well-defined, and real problem. It should be a chewable size with a high chance of success, with a clear way to measure the outcomes. Once the pilot done, you need to decide on how you would like to enhance or scale up. There are always 3 methods: big bang, systematic sprint, and slow rollout, depending on time to impact and operational risk that you can take. So in our case, we picked actually the path of systematic sprint with 2 to 3 years of kind of roadmap. Lesson 9, all transformation programs require employees to keep the everyday business on track, while at the same time they have to change how everyday business is done. So this additional work by definition requires more energy. So it is very important to ensure that transformation program generates more energy than it consumes. It is all too common that after the launch of the program and completion of the first pilot, even the pilot is 100% successful, employees lose sight of the bigger picture and begin to feel that they are being asked for pain with no gain. They foster cynicism and fatigue. This period is normally called the valley of desolation. So many DX programs, even after having successful pilot projects, stops and terminate at this stage. So to minimize time spent in this valley and also reduce the risk of the program termination on this stage, you should use the techniques explained before, like mobilizing influence leaders, making the change program personal for critical mass leaders, rigorously reinforce it through ongoing two-way communications, and the other elements of change management. And last but not least, use every opportunity to reduce your organizational digital accent. Measure the digital fluency of your firm regularly and use any possible opportunity to reduce it. You can use formal or informal training, showcasing new technologies, bringing technology vendors to come and demo their platforms to your executive teams and your team. Keep benchmarking industry leaders, adding fresh blood into your organizations through hiring individuals with lesser digital accents and with higher digital fluency. Lastly, be prepared for a long journey. This journey is going to be fun, and if you do it right, you will definitely be successful. In the end, I will leave you with a list of resources I used in this deck, plus some additional books and articles for those who are interested. So some of these books is actually very informative. If you read, basically, you get a very good understanding about digital transformations basics and also the fundamentals. So thanks for your time today and all the best in your DX journeys, and enjoy the rest of the day and seminars. Thank you.
The umbrella drone. You know when it rains and you have to go through that difficult and terribly time-consuming hassle of having to open up your old school umbrella? Me neither. But if you're one of the brawly challenged among us, it sounds like you might need a drone. But not just any drone. How about an umbrella drone? 11 pounds of personalized precipitation protection power. Flying just above your skull and hovering in position while connected to your smartphone, it's a lightning strike's best friend. All this can be yours for just $2,000, which is roughly the price you'd be paying for skin grafts should the drone suddenly lose power, plummet to the earth, and carve up your forehead like a Christmas turkey. If nothing else, this little gadget is an ingenious, albeit exorbitantly priced, way to keep your drone dry. The umbrella drone. Long may it rain.
Never forget your umbrella. Sorry. Back to serious news here. Thank you, Cambies. That was great. There was a lot to take away, at least from your presentation in there. Now, if you like something that Cambies had to say, put a comment in the chat or tweet about it using the hashtag DXAwards. Now, if you missed some of the salient points in that presentation, and there were a lot of them, don't worry. ITWC has its writers in the audience capturing key moments of presentations, and their work will be available back here on the platform and in the ITWC network of publications as early as tomorrow. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our next Digital Transformation Award winner, this time in the small private category. And the finalists are AOT Technology, Disruptive Edge, TRG Mobile Earth, VisWorks, and WebSpan Solutions. Big drum roll. The winner is AOT Technologies. And here's a few words from the winner, AOT.
The global pandemic, while a shock to the system and to companies in general, forced many to take a close look at what they do and how they can do it better. For AOT Technologies co-founders Praveen Ramasandran and George Phillip, uncertainty in the world led to reflection and then reinvention.
During the COVID time, right, that's when we realized when the COVID started, our primary revenue source, right, it was from services. So services being a major part of our revenue source, we wanted to reinvent ourselves because at that time we found it very risky to just rely on the services revenue. We wanted to reinvent ourselves and be like a more products and solutions-based company. And with our years of experience working with BC public sector and other big enterprises, we came up with this open source framework that could accelerate digital transformation projects.
Initially, we were a services company. Like when we started, so that's what we knew how to do, to provide technology services. And we were working with various BC governments. That's when we found ourselves solving the same problem over and over again. If we are solving the same problem over and over again, if we create a solution that can address the pain, then maybe many people can find it really useful. And that's what we always wanted to do, to create our own products. So we took all this learning and experience that we had working with government, reinventing the wheel several times, and turned that into a product called FormFlow.ai, which allows governments to rapidly create business applications.
Both Ramasandran and Phillip said smaller companies like theirs do well to focus on culture, to building the kind of culture where people are happy and thus in the best possible frame of mind to innovate.
It's first and foremost about the employee, because we want to build a place that we want to be. We all work for this company and we want to create a space where there is very strong work-life balance. Even if you go on our website, it is clearly written like people first.
We are an employee first company. Some companies, they say, customer first, but in our case, we are an employee first company because we believe if employees are happy, they will definitely take care of our customers really well, right?
A huge congratulations to AOT Technologies for winning this year's DX Award in the small private sector category.
Honestly, I believe that this award is a recognition of the great product that we have built, and I believe that this award will give us the visibility that this great product that we have built into other Canadian CIOs and other people in the industry, because somebody needs to tell these stories, and IT World Canada is really good at telling these such stories that CIOs can, such tools that CIOs can leverage to enhance their business.
Congratulations, AOT. As digital leaders leverage technology platforms and influence their organization's digital operating models, patterns have emerged that show how these changes impact their strategic digital priorities. Tech research giant Gartner captures these trends in its Digital Execution Scorecard survey. And here, after sorting through the data, is Gartner's senior executive partner, Steve Heck, to share the strategies that helped digital leaders to be successful and also why. Take it away, Steve.
Thanks for the introduction, Jim. I'm excited to share the results of Gartner's Digital Execution Scorecard. We asked the same questions that many of you have, is which organizations are succeeding with their digital transformational aspirations? And more specifically, what are they doing differently? A couple of the key challenges, as we all have, is it's one thing to have a digital aspiration, and it's another thing to convert that into reality and gain the benefits from that. The problem, or one of the problems that we have, is if you've got no frame of reference, how do you know if you're leading, if you're keeping pace with your competitors, or if you need to play catch up? And also, how do you know what works and what doesn't work? So we created the Digital Execution Scorecard to address these questions and help you and the industry achieve its objectives as quickly and efficiently as it can. How do you generate revenue, and how do you generate digital revenue? And for those organizations that maybe in the public sector that's not about sales and revenue, how do you create value for your stakeholders? The second strategic priority is how do you deliver a great customer experience for those that consume what it is that you offer? How you orchestrate a great organization, achieve operational excellence so that you're being as effective as you can. And while you're doing that, how do you use the resources as efficiently as possible? And last but not least is how do you minimize the risk so that you're not taking on any more than you absolutely have to achieve the objectives and the aspirations of your organization? Enabling all of those things is your operating model, and built on how you fund, the culture of your people, how you structure your organization, how you acquire the skills and talents, and how you orchestrate the ways that your organization actually does work, and have that complemented by the technology and other platforms that are the foundational layer of how your business works and how the technology and ecosystems and use of data, et cetera, enable your business model to be as effective as possible. So we looked at the top performing organizations, and fortunately, and not surprisingly, there is a major difference. And that comes in two primary places. One, they are doing things differently. They perform and behave in different ways. And the second thing is they invest in different things. If we focus on what do they do differently, top performers embrace more agile ways of working. They use ecosystems and leverage customer platforms to a greater degree. And they have a more of a digital culture and orchestrate digital skills throughout their business. If we focus on what makes them more agile and iterative in terms of how they work, well, it starts by they fund in a more of an agile way. We all know we like annual budgets. We like to be predictable. We like to make sure we know how much money we have to spend and how to stay within that. the agile way of working really doesn't line up very well. And so the organizations that have figured out a way to embrace that have enabled much more agile activity within their business. That has fueled the adoption of agile methods and technology practices that are more familiar to many of us. And that fuels the ability to have more agile releases of deliveries, more agile and more frequent delivery of value in more of an incremental and iterative way. And so the concept of product management and the creation of value to be consumed by your customers and your internal stakeholders as the primary objective is something that is focused on almost twice as much by the organizations that are outperforming the rest of the organizations. So that's key. And as part of that, the embracing of the concept of fusion teams as a way of living an agile culture is also a lot more present. Effectively, that is, you bring together the right people, the best people in the organization. They're only together as long as they're needed to create the product, to create the capability. Generally, they cut across all the business functions, and so it's much more used as an enabling concept in those organizations that are doing better at digital transformation. The other thing that they're doing is they're embracing the concept of ecosystems. So leveraging partners, leveraging vendors, not having to build everything internally from scratch. That also includes embracing the concept of leveraging modern UI, modern customer experiences, but also investing in the concept of APIs as a plug-in capability to allow your vendors and partners to engage with you. A great example of this is in the financial systems, financial services space. They make it easy for vendors and partners to bring their capabilities. They put a wrapper around it, they deliver it to their customers, and can compete faster with more capable solutions without actually having to build it themselves, but by partnering with the right companies. And the final thing that they do differently is their culture and their skill sets are much more digitally transformative and advanced. Specifically, the IT leaders and leaders of their organization demonstrate and model what it is to be a digital organization. That sets a great example for the broader workforce, and they invest in modern digital skills. And that creates a really powerful force for their workforce and allows them to bring their culture and bring their strategy to life. The dependency that puts on is your talent management framework and your ability to know which roles you need to fill, what skills you need to fill them with so that you're attracting the right people into your organization. So if that's what they're doing, what are they investing in differently? Well, they're investing in their culture. They're investing in their leadership skills, and they're investing in the skills of the entire workforce to understand and embrace what it is to be a digital organization. And so if I dig into that a little bit further, ultimately what they're doing is they're investing in their people. The technology is something that we all have access to. We can invest in cloud services. We can invest in infrastructure. We can invest in the new devices. But the organizations that are really succeeding are investing in the things that you can't buy off the shelf. And so what the top performing organizations are doing is they are investing in their digital culture. They are investing in how they work and create an atmosphere of continuous improvement, continuous and iterative delivery of value. Their leaders are modeling the behavior of what it is to be a digital organization and reinforcing those behaviors and investing and rewarding the behaviors that allow them to be a leader in their digital transformation aspirations. That is then creating the culture and the focus and appreciation for the modern skill sets that they need to have, retain and develop, which then, as I said, it's really hard to find talent these days. So in many cases, you have to build it. And if you can build it and retain it, by default, you've got an advantage, or you'll be leading the pack. And a couple of key concepts that really thrive in this environment is the notion of design thinking and the adoption of the concept of really understanding the user journey or the customer journey. The better you understand them, the better you understand their needs, the better you'll be able to rally and focus your resources and your thought leadership on satisfying their needs better than other options that they might have. So that's one key thing. And I've touched on also the concept of managing products instead of managing projects. The leading organizations know that it's about the consumption of value, the creation of value to be consumed. That's the ultimate definition of success. And so that's the whole concept behind product management, to have somebody own the accountability for making sure that value is being created to be ultimately consumed as the definition of success. So in a kind of a nutshell, those are the things the digital transformation leaders are doing different things. They are investing in different things. And primarily it comes back to how they are orchestrating their business to embrace those things that truly make them a digital leader. Now, final thought is that this isn't a kind of big bang. It's not a one-size-fits-all journey. You can make some incremental improvements in terms of improving your business that will have new and additive value by embracing digital transformation and the promise of it, by improving the things that you do currently. You could also use it to create kind of new and product extensions, or you could take it to an extreme and create whole new industries or whole new product groups that didn't exist before, if you have the unique ability to convert the resources that you have into something that industry have never seen before. You have the ability to pick how aggressive you want to be with your digital transformation journey and aspirations. You can be iterative and improve the things that could naturally be improved by being more iterative, being more agile, adding value in an incremental way, improving the skill sets and the culture of your organization. You could be more ambitious to create a new product, create a whole new digital channel that's an extension of your business model. If you want to be really aspirational, you could actually create a whole new product and satisfy a need that none of your competitors are actually thinking about yet. What we found in today's environment, the first mover advantage is a huge advantage because you can kind of stake out your ground first and let others play catch up. So what does that mean for you? What is your action plan? What do you do with this information? I'd say the first thing is take stock of just how digitally ready your organization is. And in the spirit of the digital execution scorecard, if you have access to it, and if you're a Gartner client, I'd encourage you to take it. If you don't have that access to that specific resource, do your own assessment of just how digitally ready you are within your organization across those dimensions that I've called out, which are differentiating factors and the things that will lead to your success. And then put an action plan together where you know you're not as far along as what you need to be. Start to put your own plan together, make steps and make improvement in those areas. And I think you'll find that progress and improvement will come as a result of focusing on those things. So I hope you find this useful. I hope it helped to clarify really what it is that the leaders in the digital transformation space are doing, what they're doing differently, what they're investing in differently, so that you're not left to figure it out on your own, but you can learn from the best and hopefully accelerate your journey along that path.
Thank you, Steve. Great stuff. Okay. I'm going to introduce another award winner in a moment, but for those in the audience who are new to this event, and some of you just asked, I want to explain how the winners are selected. The winners were taken from nominations we received during the nomination period that ran between February 14th and April 15th. This year, we received 35 nominations, and the nominations were sent to our judging panel that first decided on the finalists and then went tooth and nail sometimes to decide on the winner. And the nominations were evaluated on the capacity for innovation, business acumen, and technological vision. Now, for anybody who's ever volunteered as a judge, you know it takes longer than you expect, but it's a rewarding process. You get the chance to witness some innovative thinkers and be invigorated by close-up views of how leaders are moving from idea to successful execution. Now, I'd like to recognize this year's judges because it's an incredible amount of work and their commitment to the judging process is extraordinary. The 2022 judging panel includes Namir Anani, President and CEO, Information and Communications Technology Council, Shan McGrail, Executive Director, Haltech, Yogi Schultz, Senior Consultant, Corvell Consulting, Barbara J. Orser, Deloitte Professor, Telfer School of Management, University of Ottawa, and the chair of the panel, CIO Consultant, IT Moderator, and my good friend, and former CIO for the City of Toronto, Rob Meikle. Thank you, all of you. Okay, now on to our next award. And it is my pleasure to introduce our next Digital Transformation Award finalists, this time in the large public category. The finalists are Alberta Health Services, Canadian Nuclear Laboratories, City of Toronto Reservations Project Team, InnovaPost, Ottawa Catholic School Board, the Toronto Zoo, the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board. And the winner is InnovaPost. Now let's take a look at the video our ITWC team put together to showcase InnovaPost's journey. Roll it.
Prior to 2018, InnovaPost was perceived and used largely as a service provider and order taker, rather than as a strategic lever in the success of Canada Post. Lately, however, things have changed dramatically. According to President, CEO, and Chief Digital Officer Franco Kirikela, this change began with an acknowledgement that the company was not in sync with other parts of the Canada Post group of companies.
So one of the key things we had to do was just make sure that we were aligned to the goals and the objective of the member companies. And from there, that sparked really a transformation that touched every aspect of our business, from how we deliver to moving from a more waterfall to agile approach, to our HR functions, our finance functions, operations, and essentially everything in between. And so really it all started with the objective of better aligning with the organizations, and that was a catalyst for really an enterprise-wide transformation.
Companies will pursue transformation for a variety of reasons, but for InnovaPost, like many organizations, the push came from a desire to knock down barriers and become more agile.
So we kind of think about, hey, we really want to be agile and nimble and really deliver quickly to our market. What are the technologies that can help us enable that was probably one of our key focus. As we thought about being a more agile organization, that meant we had to think about, cloud technologies, a lot of DevOps technologies that really helped us be more agile and be more nimble. And these are not maintained or managed within a silos. These are cross-functional, highly transformational kind of platforms. So that was our focus.
Most organizations in successful transformations emphasize the critical importance of involving not just one department or a group of decision makers, but everyone. InnovaPost is certainly no different in this regard.
So we cannot separate IT from the business. We need to work together, and there is no transformation that can be successful only done in IT if the business is not engaged with us. So after we were sure that all the executives were bought in, business was engaged, and then we start explaining to our people and making them understand why that was so important for us as a company.
Transformation, far from being a chore or a burden, has actually helped InnovaPost set new goals and priorities.
True transformations never really end, and as it's said, they're more journeys than arriving at a particular destination. For us in 2022, a continuation of this journey really reinforced and allowed focus on some of the key elements throughout the transformation, but also has introduced some new ones. As an example, for 2022, we're now focusing on 6 key priorities to guide us through 2022. And as I said, with the focus of better alignment, strategic alignment to the member companies.
InnovaPost is the very proud recipient of this year's Digital Transformation Award in the Large Public Sector category.
Thank you very much. It is an honor to be recognized for this award, and I truly accept it on behalf of the 750 passionate InnovaPost employees that made this happen. You know, I'd love to say that it was a fantastic and easy route, but it wasn't. All transformations come with personal sacrifice and challenges that the whole organization endured. But it is so satisfying to be on the other end of that and see that all that hard work and dedication paid off. We see it in how we respond to the member companies. We see it how we interact as an organization. And so we are truly humbled by the recognition, but also very proud of the accomplishment. And so thank you very much.
Congratulations, InnovaPost. 2022 is not just the year of digital transformation. It's also the year I termed my year-end report, IT Under Attack. Cybersecurity and digital transformation go hand in hand. With impossibly high stakes, it's always in a company's best interest to get the team on board and develop a cybersecurity first culture. Now, unfortunately, a new study released earlier this month shows we've got a long way to go. New research by NordPass, a password manager and independent research firm, reveals that a dizzying number of CEOs and business owners are using ridiculously weak and dangerously simple passwords. The cybersecurity report revealed that passwords such as 12345, password, and QWERTY are among the most hacked passwords by CEOs. Go figure, right? And in fact, the most hacked password used by CEOs, managers, business owners, and other high-ranking executives is 123456. And that was found to be involved in over 1.1 million cybersecurity breaches worldwide. Another popular choice, password. This was found in 700,000 instances. We did a video on this to show how ridiculous password was as a password. But we continue. The research also suggested that high-ranking business executives often use names in their passwords, the most popular of which are Tiffany, used in 100,000 breaches, Charlie, used in 33,000 breaches, Michael in 10,000, and Jordan in another 10,000. While the numbers are shocking and not a surprise at the same time, password security is undoubtedly one of the topics most in the mind of our next speaker from the event sponsor Cloudflare, as he addressed the 10 essentials of security to keep your digital transformation initiatives out of the grasp of cyber criminals. Please welcome John N. Gates, Field CTO with Cloudflare. Now, John joined Cloudflare in 2021, and he's responsible for leading the Field CTO organization globally. But prior to Cloudflare, John was CTO at NTT Global Networks and Global CTO at Rackspace Technology. Now, let's hear what John has to say.
Hello, my name is John N. Gates, and I'm Field CTO at Cloudflare. I want to talk to you today about something I call an accidental strategy, and how just like cloud, soon you'll be putting the internet at the center of your digital and network transformation strategy. Let's go back in time and remember the cloud back in 2010. If you recall, no one at that time was really moving all their workloads to the cloud. Very few actually believed cloud could ever replace dedicated servers or virtualization. And from a security standpoint, the idea of public cloud seemed kind of silly. Who in their right mind would really want to put their data in a shared public cloud connected to the internet? But cloud was happening. One by one, applications were being moved or built in the cloud. Developers at startups, they were the earliest adopters, and then soon larger organizations were also building in the cloud. Companies like banks and retailers, manufacturers, and even the public sector. The developers were simply embracing better technology that made their lives easier. They no longer needed to open a ticket to get their infrastructure. Cloud was more automated, it was programmable, and it was infinitely composable. All they had to do was make requests via an API. At the same time, organizations were moving to software as a service. Business units were choosing SaaS over their legacy software vendors. And CEOs were being asked by their boards and their investors, what's your cloud strategy? And they'd turn to their CIO or their CTO and they'd ask, what are we doing with the cloud? This is what I describe as an accidental cloud strategy. It certainly wasn't intentional. The fact is, companies couldn't foresee that they were going to move so many apps to the cloud so quickly. And you can understand why. Cloud didn't seem ready for it. It lacked features, it wasn't as fast or reliable, the architecture was totally different, and because of the shared nature of cloud, it was perceived as less secure. But it was good enough, and cloud would get better quickly. It was actually evolving faster than what it was replacing. And contrary to the initial skepticism, the cloud would eventually be seen as more secure and more reliable of what came before. A company starting from scratch today would never build or buy a data center, and even most large enterprises are embracing a cloud-first strategy, and a number have moved significant number of workloads to SaaS and cloud. Now let's pivot over and talk about the network that underpins all of this digital transformation. The same way that the cloud disrupted the enterprise data center, the internet is disrupting the enterprise WAN. No one could have predicted the shift to 100% remote work, but almost overnight, the pandemic pushed users to the internet. Because really there was no other choice. Thankfully, SaaS and cloud were internet native, users had home broadband. Cloud-based software meant users working from home via the internet could continue to be productive even during a global pandemic. But the internet was never really meant to take on this role of a corporate network backbone. And once again, we'll call this an accidental strategy. Some companies did 2 years worth of digital transformation in a few months. But just because you have a remote workforce, does it mean the internet is your global network? Well, for new or small companies, yes. Their infrastructure is 100% cloud, their workers are remote, there's no branch offices, they're in their corporate WAN, that's the internet for all practical purposes. Larger companies, however, are caught between the past and the future state of their network. They didn't predict remote or hybrid work. Their networks are still architected for a workforce that comes into the office. The network architecture is really a hub and spoke architecture, and the security strategy is still perimeter-based, that old castle and moat architecture. The VPN is the primary means of remote access. But this is not the world we live in. All the interesting stuff is out there on the internet. Users are working from anywhere, and applications are moving to the cloud faster than ever. As for security, it's almost impossible to draw a perimeter around anything, but the security threats are real and increasingly sophisticated, and they're most commonly delivered via malware or phishing attacks targeted at those end users. Enterprise IT leaders are once again facing the prospect of an accidental network strategy. We know the use of SaaS and cloud is only going to increase. The center of gravity has already moved out of the campus network and data center. Hybrid work is here to stay, and users are increasingly using only the internet. So I'd argue that the internet should be placed at the center of your networking strategy and your security strategy. Branch office circuits and even parts of the enterprise WAN will begin to be phased out over time. So how do we transform the network in the face of all this change? How do we make the internet secure, reliable, and private enough for all our enterprise workloads? Zero Trust has emerged as the leading approach to security for this new internet-first paradigm. Zero Trust is a model that moves away from security via traditional network-based perimeters and instead focuses on users, assets, and resources. No implicit trust is granted based solely on network or physical location. We have to assume that attackers are already in our network, so we must treat all networks equally, basically untrusted. SASE, or Secure Access Service Edge, brings together this Zero Trust security approach with a networking as a service capability and leverages the internet edge to provide the on-ramps for users and devices. Security functions are performed as close to the end user as possible, and these services are cloud native and internet centric. No more of these physical firewall appliances or appliances running in VMs. A Zero Trust network and SASE, they truly modernize the VPN and provide users access only to the applications they need. No more and no less access than absolutely required. Here at Cloudflare, we have been bringing customers large and small into the modern era of security and networking as a service via our global network. Our 270 points of presence around the globe provide the network on-ramps, and then we leverage the internet and our own global backbone to improve performance and reliability and increase privacy and security. We're essentially helping build a better internet. In fact, that's our company motto. We're protecting websites, applications, and APIs from a broad range of threats and vulnerabilities. And with Cloudflare Zero Trust, we're safeguarding users wherever they may live and work. And we're doing this seamlessly and globally via a platform we expose via a simple dashboard, a single API, and a unified set of policy. We integrate with existing identity and access management services and endpoint security capabilities, and provide end-to-end security for all companies. Cloudflare helped BlockFi halt the DDoS and API attacks that were plaguing them and allowed systems to return to normal within a few hours. They decided to pursue a more comprehensive organizational security transformation to protect its workforce and sensitive data with Cloudflare Zero Trust. This platform includes a Zero Trust network access solution to protect applications across cloud and on-premises environments, along with a secure web gateway solution to provide threat protection from ransomware, phishing, and other internet-based threats. All of BlockFi's high-value internal applications are now secured behind the Cloudflare ZTNA solution, including 2 applications that handle sensitive data and represent an estimated 70% of BlockFi's mission-critical applications. BlockFi is just one example of a long list of companies who are taking advantage of Cloudflare's global network edge to provide on-ramps to Zero Trust and to protect their applications and APIs from DDoS attacks, bots, and a range of other threats. Every day, we're working with customers who want an intentional network and security strategy, not an accidental one. A network strategy built for the internet, for SaaS, cloud, and for remote users. One that's programmable and can adapt quickly to change. They want to take advantage of networking as a service and deploy security as code. They certainly don't want to be caught off guard like the early days of cloud. They see the future and realize that they need a network strategy that's prepared for whatever may come. So let me just close by saying, don't end up with an accidental strategy. Instead, put in place a network to support your company's overall digital transformation initiatives, put the internet at the center of your network and your security architecture, and enable seamless remote access to all of your applications wherever they live. And adopt Zero Trust to protect your users and applications from attack. Secure your future with Cloudflare. Thank you.
The smart hairbrush. Do you ever worry that your brushing patterns may be harming your hair? Perhaps there's a smarter way to comb, or in this case, a smarter comb. Welcome to the smart hairbrush, which is kind of like a comb. This puppy boasts a microphone, gyroscope, and accelerometer, among other sensors, so it can observe your brushing techniques and even listen for split ends, vibrating to warn you that you're brushing too hard. Using Wi-Fi, it syncs to a smartphone app that gives you an overall grade of your hair health and, among other things, spits out an endless series of hair graphs that will no doubt make you the envy of all your friends. Take that, Michelle. The smart hairbrush retails for around $200, which may be a good deal, I don't know. I've never had a militant hairbrush that spits out analytics before. Finally, a product that makes you appreciate the fact you're bald. Suffice it to say that this is one truly harebrained idea.
This is sad. The vacuum cleaner shoes, okay, had me sucked in. Get it? Had me sucked, never mind. The umbrella drone didn't seem like such a bad idea. I buy umbrellas, I never have one when I need it. But the hair thing, no. Nah, I'm getting used to COVID hair. My stylist books digital appointments 2 months in advance. Sigh. Now, if you're popping in out of the program and wondering what the heck's going on, or if you found you missed something, don't worry. The entire program is on demand and will be available on the site for review tomorrow and for the next few months. Now on to our next award. It is my pleasure to introduce our next Digital Transformation Award winner, this time in the large private sector. The finalists are Alcanna Inc., CI Financial, and the National Bank of Canada. And the winner is CI Financial. And here are a few words from our winner.
Ask 100 business leaders why their organization began their transformation journey, and many would say it was to serve customers better, to meet expectations. But when you ask CI Financial's Chief Innovation Officer, Kambiz Vatan Abadi, why his company began down that path, he speaks more in terms of practicalities and long-term viability.
The wheel of change is really turning in financial industry, as you know. So we can identify at least 10 to 12 principal disruption sources constantly changing our industry. A few years ago, I remember we realized that if we don't adopt, if we don't transform, and find new ways to create values for our clients, our business growth would start to flatten and our market share would shrink.
Kambiz is clear on the value of where you stand before you can go ahead and plan where you're going to end up.
When it comes to digital transformation steps, I guess everyone agrees about, the critical role of defining where we are going, which is setting your North Star basically. And also they all agree on, how we should get there, which is basically road mapping. But it seems to me that the importance of, having a realistic snapshot of the status quo, both from technological perspective and also from cultural and organizational health perspective, has been a bit underestimated. So as I mentioned in my DX presentations earlier today, this is like doing a full medical exam before performing a major surgery. How can you do a complex surgery if you don't have a full medical test in your hand? Or if you have, but you can't rely on the validity and accuracy of the test reports?
Kambiz is a huge believer in brutal honesty, particularly in the gap analysis phase of road mapping a digital transformation.
So when it comes to performing a gap analysis, so the most important element here is doing it right and being honest and being ready to face tough realities. You probably are not going to be excited when you see your initial gap analysis report card, and this is totally fine. It is very typical to be basically to have such a bad reports. Set your expectation low and be ready to have the low mark. And actually, if you get a high mark and if you are getting a sweet high mark and excited reporting, you probably need to think twice whether you've done that right or not, because most probably it shouldn't be the case.
CI Financial has moved through several phases of digital transformation, but the journey has only just begun.
We started our digital transformation journey back in 2019 and successfully passed the planning, piloting, and execution phases over the last 3 years. And now we are well into our enhancement mode. Basically, we built and operationalized a proven new operating model and a new working culture. And going forward, our job is to enhance this new model in all aspects of our business and change our day-to-day corporate lifestyle.
Congratulations to CI Financial for winning this year's Digital Transformation Award in the large private sector category.
It is such a great feeling when you see the transformation program you are so passionate about, the one that you and your entire team invested so much effort in over the last 3 years, resonate with others and receive an industry acknowledgement. We are so honored to have our transformation program recognized by IT World of Canada and to be the winner of the 2022 Digital Transformation Award in the large private sector. So a big thank you to ITWC and the judging panel. So I have no doubt that this award will boost our entire team motivations and make us more adamant for the rest of the journey. I would like to thank the entire CI financial team in general and our operations, IT, client experience, HR, finance, EPMO, and automation teams in specific. They are our true champions who made this wish come true. And this award really belongs to them, not to me. So we hope that this recognition can serve as an inspiration to others in the field. And remember, if our work can make a difference, so can yours. So thank you again, and all the best in your transformation journey.
Congratulations, CI Financial. We're coming up to the close of the conference, and we're going to present our final award, and then we're going to hear from our closing speaker. And it is my pleasure to introduce our next Digital Transformation Award winner, this time in the Digital Disruptor category. A digital disruptor is an organization that's digital transformation effort changes the fundamental expectations in a marketplace or a channel. Uber disrupted the taxi business, for example. Airbnb disrupted the hotel industry, and Amazon did it with shopping, and Wealthsimple did it with stock trading. And our nominees have done it in their category. Nominees for 2022 are AOT Technologies, Boomerang Fx, Disruptive Edge, Mavinet Systems Inc., and TRG Mobile Earth Inc. And the winner is, bring it back now, bring it back, Boomerang Fx. You wouldn't get that till I said it. So Boomerang Fx, great job. Here are a few words from Boomerang Fx.
For those unaware of a connection between the words boomerang and healthcare, meet Boomerang Fx, a SaaS-based technology company that offers practice management solutions for non-insured private healthcare segments, like dentistry, dermatology, and cosmetic surgery. But this is not just another software company.
Boomerang Fx is the only solution in the market that offers integrated digital marketing that's tied in with an end-to-end practice management platform that helps the medical practice continuously bring in new patients through our digital marketing solution, but then also manage that patient flow through dashboards that helps to schedule patients, treat them. We have integrated healthcare records and drip marketing so that those patients keep coming back through our marketing strategy. So it's really an end-to-end practice management solution.
The best kind of innovation is that which comes out of a desire to close a gap or solve a problem. Boomerang Fx had a vision to make private healthcare companies, from med spas to vision, hair restoration, and dermatology clinics, more efficient.
We identified the private healthcare market as one that was really ignored from a technological advancement or automation perspective. So our whole vision is to automate the inside of a private healthcare practice. And that's a very broad vertical. It includes segments like dermatology, med spas, cosmetic dental, cosmetic vision, hair restoration centers. These are all some of the fastest growing categories inside healthcare. And there really is no end-to-end solution that helps these medical practices grow and manage their business.
What Boomerang Fx offers is order, the promise of a seamless enterprise.
Currently, these medical practices are using disjointed solutions. They have multiple service providers that offer some elements of digital marketing, some elements of CRM, some elements of EMR. Usually those systems don't talk to each other. And so our real excitement about Boomerang is that we're a one-stop solution that marries it all together And with machine learning and AI, it really helps these medical practices run better, more efficiently, and smarter, and be more engaged with their customers.
Congratulations to Boomerang FX on winning this year's Digital Disruptor Award.
Thank you. It's an honor on behalf of Boomerang FX to receive the Digital Disruptor Award. It really represents the culmination of a lot of hard work from our leaders, from our team members, our board, and our investors who had the vision and the faith in helping us launch this business in the middle of a pandemic and now see exponential growth all across North America. So we're really proud of this award and recognition, and thank you for the committee.
Well, I'm back. Get it? Boomerang? I'm back. Never mind. Congratulations, Boomerang FX. And we have one final treat for you. The issue of diversity is not only hot, it's important. So sit back and relax. And we've got IT World Canada's Fawn Annan in conversation with Gartner's Senior Executive Partner, Deborah Christmas, on diversity in IT and transformation. Now, Deborah's long been an advocate for greater inclusion in the workplace, and she'll share some insights into why this is both the right thing to do and good business. And she's going to offer some concrete steps you can take to diversify your digital workforce. Let's hear from Deborah and Fawn on diversity, equity, and inclusion, DE&I. I have to say, this lady spoke at a remote employee event we held, and I hung on every word. DE&I. Wow. Fawn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jim. Well, today we're talking about DE&I, which over the past 2 years has been featured in many conversations at many conferences, covering extensively the benefits of paying close attention to inclusion in the workplace. The difference is that today we speak with the Gartner champion, Deborah Christmas. Hello, Deborah. Welcome.
Hello, Fawn. Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure, believe me. So, Deborah, I'm going to go straight into the questions. It's the last session of the day. As you examine the current DE&I situation with Fortune 1000 companies and governments, have you found there's been a change over time?
Yes, we have, Fawn, because the events of the last 2 years have certainly raised the visibility to these really important issues. It's on everybody's radar. There isn't a CEO on the face of the planet who doesn't have to address this in some way. The real question is, what's the way? Because we know there are, check the box type things, and then there are real initiatives. So that's really what's at the heart of what's going on now is, what are people actually doing?
So where do leaders and influencers, in your opinion, start the conversation besides HR, which, of course, everyone's trying to be politically correct? But what's the checklist and what's best practices from what you've seen? You've been in so many companies, so you would have a really great idea of the best coming forward.
Well, you actually said the word in your question. It starts with simply having conversations, one person at a time. Get curious about people around you, raise your head up and pay attention to the things that, you might not have ever paid attention to them before. This is not a new topic. Organizations have been talking about this for years, decades. We've got programs, we've got policies, we've got initiatives, and they do have their place, like any other policy of the organization. But that's not what really drives true change. It's our behaviors, one person at a time. I'm going to use a quote that I heard about sustainability that I think is really aligns to diversity. The quote was by Anne-Marie Bonneau. I don't know this person. The zero waste chef is what she is famous for. And here's what she said. We don't need a handful of people doing zero waste perfectly. We need millions of people doing it imperfectly. That applies to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Every single one of us has a part to play. So what we all need to figure out is what's our part, and then do our part.
Well, I guess the big thing is that we do understand that values of all those individuals you just mentioned manifest itself throughout the corporation in its behavior. So, how do you go about influencing that? Because that's a lot more difficult than just putting out a corporate mandate when you have to influence each individual at a time.
Yeah, it's really hard, but because values is what we live by, right? And they're the compass that guide us, both personally and professionally. We all want to live by strong values. We want to walk the talk every single day. Some days it's harder than others. We teach our children values, but we all know what good looks like. Trust, integrity, honesty, transparency. No one would say that those values are not important. So now you got to think about how do they manifest in the corporate environment, because they are engraved on plaques in the lobby. They're on granite as you approach the building. We treat our employees with respect. We have integrity. We hold ourselves accountable. We take pride in serving our customers. We all understand these company values. They're the guiding principles, the fundamental beliefs that the organization operates under. So the hard part is, how do they manifest in behaviors in the organization? And how do we hold ourselves accountable for those behaviors?
Well, what's interesting is, you brought up the word accountability a couple of times just in what you said. But how do we hold leadership more accountable? We're always talking about employees, but how do we hold leadership more accountable?
Well, there's the $64,000 question. First of all, it takes courage on so many levels, because again, no one wants to be on the wrong side of this. But executives they're almost paralyzed to know what to do. So here's some things that I think about. They can start really truly assessing, what does the organization stand for? Like, really, I'm not being funny. Are they clear with the values and the behavior expectations? And how are they behaving as leaders? How are they behaving? What is their brand? Are they walking the talk? In some cases, there might require a changing of the guard in some respects, because not all executives are actually on board, like recognizing their own biases, recognizing behaviors that, don't align. And it isn't about the big things, meaning we know when somebody says something really inappropriate, like the N-word. Okay? No one's going to argue how wrong that is. And no one's going to argue that there should be consequences for that. But some of the other microaggressions that might not be so recognizable, they're hard. They're harder. And the thing about leadership that people need to understand, if you're sitting in a position of leadership, not handling things is a really poor reflection on you as a leader. Human beings are going to make mistakes. They're going to do the wrong thing. They're going to say the wrong thing. But you as a leader has to stand forward and say, that's not acceptable. What's the plan? What are we going to do about it? Because if you don't, and if you ignore it, you're kind of in the same bucket as a person who made the big mistake, because you don't have the courage to go and deal with it.
Well, what use cases do you know that can show a lens of proof that bad behavior has its consequences?
Well, I don't have examples from a client perspective. I know there are a number of case studies out there that are reported in Harvard Business Review and other kinds of, publications of that nature. But we do see organizations taking swift action. And that's actually the best use case, whoever you are. They have shown that inappropriate behavior, commentary, whatever it is not going to be tolerated in any way. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone has to be fired. Okay? We've got this cancel culture thing. You might have to be, depending on what the issue is. It just means there's consequences for what we do. So often, one very swift public action, boy, that can send a strong message so quickly. It's a test of leadership, and everybody understands right away. It catches everybody where they're like, ooh, okay, that was an action. And that's all it can take. Now, there's also education. So there's things where it might be a very public response. In other cases, it might be, we've got to get our organization together very quickly and deal with this. I'll use the Starbucks example. Let's use an example. We all remember 2 years ago, I think it was, when there was two people of color that were treated very badly within a Starbucks. They closed their sites down for like a week to do education and training. Now think about that for a second. The financial cost of doing that was huge, but it sent a very big message that everybody needs to be educated and that this is not going to be tolerated, but we're going to educate first, and we're going to also take action. That's a perfect example of addressing something and not letting it go by the wayside.
Great example. So then on the more positive side, how many Fortune 1000 companies are living up to this new decree that you know of, besides Starbucks?
Well, I don't have a number. I wish I did. This was a topic of discussion in our diversity call just literally 24 hours ago, that there are some really good companies doing really good work. They're being very public. They're sharing. They're very publicly stating on their websites, in their LinkedIn presence, in their Facebook presence, what they stand for, what they're doing. They're promising very, very clearly that this is who we are as an organization for the world to see, That's a good one. Some of the other things that I've seen, I'm going to use Gartner as an example, because I was very impressed with what we did when Mr. Floyd was killed. So Gartner, after the death of Mr. Floyd, like most corporate entities, really started conversations within the organization. And we started these events called Real Talks. We started the first one, which was on what the events that had happened and how Black employees were feeling and what that meant to us. And that opened up a world of discussion on issues in general. We had another one for veterans. We had another one for our LGBT community. We had another one for cognitive diversity, whether you're on the autism spectrum or there were mental health challenges. I am telling you, the bravery that I saw of people share their stories, I was crying, and many people were crying. I thought that was a very brave move of the organization to open that up and to create what we call, safety, psychological safety within an organization for people to just bare their soul and share their experience. And I think it really connected us to each other as associates of Gartner, but it also elevated our awareness of the multitude of challenges that exist around, many of these issues, increased our sensitivity to challenges. When people said, how hard it was for them to get up in the morning and to, focus and do this and do work, I'm like, wow, that's not even an issue. My issue might be a person of color, but that's not an issue for me. So what does that do? It educates us. It educates that there are things going on in people's world. And when we talk about, bringing your whole self to work, that's yourself. That's yourself. So if an organization can create an environment where that's okay, I think that's a really wonderful thing.
So then how does Gartner or any organization who's doing something really great, that's a great initiative, continue to evolve and stay abreast of, these very important matters?
It's going to sound a little trite, but ask your people. Ask your people. We have organizations that have representation across many fronts. Maybe the C-suite is not as diverse, but the organization certainly is. And there are people from different backgrounds, different cultures. There is a wealth of insight and information within the four walls of your organization. Start asking questions. Start asking people, what would you do? What do you need to see? Maybe even say, can you tell us about your experience? Can you share what it has been like to be a person of color in a predominantly, white environment? I'll just use as an example. People have asked me that question. They've had no insight into what my journey might have been, but you've asked me to share some of my story, and I'll share it. The key is to create an environment where they will tell you. And that's a great start.
It is. It's certainly simple and clear. But I think what's not clear, and maybe you can succinctly articulate it, how does one learn, or how does one know that although they might be ignorant, it doesn't justify being in the right or that it is so wrong, there's going to be a consequence. And I think that's a big gap too. How do you resolve that? Because education can only go so far. You know, you're talking more generic when you're doing the education. You're not doing specifics.
So we all have biases. All of us do. I learned a new term a couple of weeks ago through Jennifer Riel, who was our guest speaker for International Women's Day. And she talked about mental models. And I thought that is such a better word or set of words, because biases has a negative connotation to it, where I have to fix something, it's something's wrong with me, versus mental models. And the way she described it is we all have them. We're raised a certain way. We come up in a certain environment. And I initially thought, oh, that's the lens that we look through the world at. And she said to me, it's not the lens, it's the filter. And I thought, oh my goodness, that is so true. The world is very, very complex. We have a lot of things coming at us. We can only take in so much at a time. So we filter and we take things in that reinforce some of the things that we believe. And this is where we have to make the shift, is that time has changed. And to your point, Fawn, things that might have been acceptable 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago, are no longer acceptable. We're smarter. We're smarter now. We understand that certain terms are inappropriate. And I'll quote Maya Angelou, who said, when you know better, you do better. And that's really what the ticket is. If we could all just acknowledge there is stuff for us to learn, we don't know it all. Some of the things that we think were correct or are correct are not. So let's get ourselves educated, because it doesn't have to be formal corporate education. And then here's the other quote, let's be the change we want to see in the world.
Wow, what a beautiful way to end this conversation. So thank you, Deborah. It's been very inspiring. And I hope that we can talk about this more in other forums.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that we had the chat.
Thank you, Fawn and Deborah. Well, here we are at the end of the day. I'm sure you're going to agree it's given us a great deal to think about. But I want to thank our speakers again, and our panelists, and especially our sponsors, Cloudflare, Dynatrace, TalkDesk, Auth0, and Okta. Now, if you get a call from one of them over the next little while, you don't have to buy anything, but say thank you for sponsoring this great event. I'd like to also thank our supporters, the Canadian CIO Association of Canada and Gartner. Now, I'm going to invite you to come back tomorrow and bring a friend, and we'll take a trip into the near future. We're going to look at AI, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and the metaverse. And then the event will cap off with the celebration of the country's top IT leaders with the presentation of ITWC's CIO of the Year Awards. The awards are going to be handed out live at the Verity Club in downtown Toronto beginning at 1:50 p.m., but you can see them live streamed here on DXTV. All of today's videos and some stories from our writers will be available tomorrow and for the next 3 months on the platform. And details and registration opportunities for the ITWC flagship events are on the platform, but I want to highlight a few of them. The LGBTQ2S+ Voices in IT is on June 21st. Incredible event in there. Canada's Top Women in Cybersecurity celebration is on July 28th, another amazing event in there. And one of my favorites, although they're all favorites, Women in IT, August 25th. Don't miss it in there. And last but not least, Analytics Unleashed, with yours truly as the host, is on September 20th. That's it. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a lovely afternoon.